into division, then the number that will be required is for 15 members to be in the House or to be seated in the chambers for them to be able to vote on this particular bill. So we will be seeing them. If the House will have the requisite quorum, then they will be going ahead to participate in this particular division. This is one of the bills that are lined up for division. And just to look more on what this bill indicates is that there is a clause, that is clause 7 and 9. On the other hand, provides for the requirement for the procuring entity and the supplier to deal with each other fairly and lawfully, and the power to make regulations by the Cabinet Secretary. This particular bill also provides for offences. An accounting officer who, without reasonable cause or negligently, fails to pay the amount due commits an offence and shall be liable to pay a fine not exceeding 1 million shillings or to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 5 years, or to both fine and imprisonment. So these are some of the details entailed in this particular bill in a number of clauses, and members will be looking at whether to go by the proposals in this bill or whether they will be seeking perhaps to bring any amendments to this bill. But this bill is at its second reading stage, and this afternoon is lined up for consideration at the floor of the Senate. The bill by the Senate Majority Leader, Honorable Aaron Cheriot, on the Public Finance Management Amendment Bill, originating from the National Assembly, Bill number 16 of 2023, which is a bill that is at its second reading stage, is also lined up for consideration at the Senate this afternoon. Debate already kicked off but was interrupted on Tuesday, 8th August 2023, because this is during the afternoon sitting, and this afternoon it is a bill that is lined up for consideration and will be going into division as well. The chairperson, Standing Committee on Finance and Budget, also has a bill on the Equalization Fund Administration Bill, originating from the Senate, Bill number 14 of 2023. This bill is yet another bill that is lined up to go into the division stage. Debate on this bill already started in the Senate and will be resuming this afternoon. It was interrupted on the Wednesday, 9th August, in the afternoon sitting, and this bill will also be going into division. And the Constitution establishes the Equalization Fund, whose purpose is to finance the provision of certain services in order to bring the quality of the services in marginalized areas. But as you can see, the Speaker of the Senate, Honorable Amason Jeffa King, is in the chambers. Allow me to hand you over to this live broadcast that is brought to you by PBU in partnership with KBC. Good afternoon.
Let us pray. Almighty God, we beseech you to behold with your abundant favor and blessings us, your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to leadership positions in this republic. We seek guidance to treat and consider all matters that shall come under deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests you've committed to our charge. Amen. Clerk, do we have quorum? Sergeant at Arms, kindly ring the quorum bell for 10 minutes.
Well, the Speaker of the Senate has directed that the quorum bell be rung for 10 minutes. Of course, this is pursuant to Standing Order number 40 of the Senate that indicates that at the commencement of the House business, if the House has not attained its requisite quorum of 15 members in the chambers, then a quorum bell will be rung. Of course, this is to give room to members who may be within the precincts of Parliament to be able to get into the chambers. That is Honorable Senator Catherine Muma there. But as you can see, the House still does not have members, but seeing members walking in. 4 bills are lined up to go into the division stage, and the House will be needing that particular number, the member quorum to be present in the chambers for this business to be able to be transacted in the House this afternoon. So that bell actually indicates that there is no quorum in the House, and for the members who are within the precincts of Parliament but yet to get into the chambers, then are required to make their way into the chambers to give room for the House to start its business. The Equalization Fund Administration Bill, originating from the Senate, Bill number 14 of 2023 by the Chairperson, Standing Committee on Finance and Budget, which is at its second reading stage, and its debate was interrupted on the Wednesday afternoon sitting, the Wednesday of 9th August. In the afternoon sitting is lined up for division. And this bill, or rather the Constitution, establishes the Equalization Fund with the sole purpose to finance the provisions of certain services in order to bring the quality of these services in marginalized areas to the level generally enjoyed by the rest of the country. And the principal object of this bill is therefore to provide the administrative structure for the management of the Equalization Fund and to establish the criteria through which projects contemplated under Article 2042 of the Constitution are identified. The critical provision in the bill also seeks to extend the pendency of the fund in accordance with Article 2048 of the Constitution. And again, cognizant, this is Kakamega Senator Honorable Boni Halwale seemingly counting the number of members in the chambers, and he is indicating that there is a certain number that has been achieved, trying to catch an eye of the Speaker to alert him that the number has at least improved in the chambers. Remember, he is supposed to be whipping the members to get into the chamber and allow the House start its business. But in a few, we believe that the members will be walking into the chambers, and once the quorum has been achieved, then the Sergeant at Arms, of course, will alert the clerk, and the Speaker will call the House to order. But at the moment, the quorum bell is still on. If you're just joining us, is that a quorum bell has been ordered. This is after the House lacked the requisite quorum, and that's why you can see members walking into the chambers, and will be able to allow the House achieve the requisite quorum. Remember, the House, at a moment when the quorum bell is underway, members are usually advised not to be walking out of the chambers. That is Nairobi Senator Honorable Edwin Sifuna walking in there. Mostly when the quorum bell is on, members are usually discouraged from walking out of the chambers. Of course, remember, this is a situation that looks at having the required number. So when members are in, then they can be able to know how many are in. The quorum bell is off. Allow me to hand you over to this live broadcast. Good afternoon.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions.
The Chairperson, Standing Committee on Justice, Legal Affairs and Human Rights.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to lay the following petition report on the table of the Senate today, the 10th of August 2023. This is the report on a petition filed by the Kipsigis Community Clans Organization regarding historical land injustices against the Kipsigis community. Mr. Speaker, briefly, I will try to use, I'm told I've got very limited time. I would love to speak to this particular petition in the shortest time possible. And I, first of all, want to highlight the fact that, Mr. Speaker, this petition was filed by the Majority Leader, the Senator for Kericho County, on the 9th of March 2023, following which the petition was committed to the Justice, Legal Affairs and Human Rights for consideration. Mr. Speaker, the salient issues in this particular petition relates to what is termed as brutal eviction that was systematic of the community known as Kipsigis land in their ancestral land, currently or presently Kericho, Bomet, Nandi, and sections of Nakuru counties. Mr. Speaker, these particular members who've petitioned this House were evicted without compensation or resettlement or in any way consideration of their ancestral land in what then was termed as the colonial governments to the British settlers, now White Highlands, where a number of multinationals are running large-scale tea plantation. Mr. Speaker, sir, the petition by this particular community, therefore, is seeking their ancestral land to be either reinstated, compensated, or in any other way enabled to pursue the legal cases which are in various status in various courts within this country and outside, and for that purpose to ensure they get reparations or to be paid for the pain, loss, and the suffering that the community has been subjected to over almost a century. Honorable Speaker, in considering the petition, we visited the counties of Kericho and Bomet, where we had first-hand experience. We met the community representatives, and we did undertake also an understanding of the issues that was within the communities affected, the interventions that over time they have attempted to have, and Mr. Speaker, this report therefore has had first-hand experiences from the grassroots. Mr. Speaker, we further also held serious engagements with the Kenya Tea Growers Association, which incorporates the large-scale tea producers in the counties of Kericho and Bomet. We also considered written submissions from the National Land Commission, Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, the Office of the Attorney General, and all these, Mr. Speaker, are covered in the report, which is detailed together with all the relevant documentations which were presented before the committee by the various stakeholders that we picked. Among the issues, Mr. Speaker, which we picked or observed in the course of our investigation is that these are long-lasting complaints which over time have been subjected to various agencies for determination, and in some, certain decisions have been rendered. For instance, Mr. Speaker, the National Land Commission has already made a determination, sometimes in April in the year 2023, However, this particular determination was challenged in the High Court, and the High Court also has pronounced itself by quashing the determination by the National Land Commission, out of which the county government of Kericho has appealed against that particular judgment, and it's a matter that is currently present and active in the Court of Appeal. There is also an existing advisory opinion that has been filed by the county government of Kericho, and it's pending in the Supreme Court of the Republic of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, we also further observed that the community in this particular case have also filed other cases in the High Court in the United Kingdom seeking for compensation and reparations from the British government. These are cases which is currently pending before that particular court. During the time when the petition was under consideration, Mr. Speaker, efforts were also ongoing between the county governments of Kericho, the county government of Bomet, with the large-scale tea growers, and also in a bid to get a mutually agreeable position in terms of getting amicable solution for purposes of sustainable and with the aim of taking into account the interest of the various stakeholders, the time that it has taken for these communities to also get reparations or compensation, and to ensure that the business community also continues within their business
Senator
enterprises.
Senator Nyamu and Senator Miraj, I call you to order.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for protecting yours truly. Mr. Speaker, out of the engagements that we have had, out of the meetings that we had, out of the reports that we also studied as a committee, we have, besides the presentation of the documentations we have, come up with 5 key recommendations. And allow me, Mr. Speaker, to highlight the very basic of these recommendations, one of which, Mr. Speaker, is with regards to the mandate of the National Land Commission, that we have recommended that the National Land Commission immediately reopen its investigations into the historical land injustices as claimed on behalf of this particular community living in Kericho, Nakuru, Bomet, and Nandi counties, to ensure that there is a proper report that captures the concerns of all the parties, including the complainants, the large-scale tea growers who indeed went to court to challenge the earlier pronouncement by the National Land Commission on allegation that they were not given an opportunity to advance their case before the National Land Commission. The committee, Mr. Speaker, has recommended that that be reopened in order to ensure that the stakeholders who were not given an opportunity to present their case be heard before a final determination is made. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, the committee has also recommended that the National Land Commission, in consultation with the Director of Surveys, to immediately submit to this Honourable House documentation in respect of the land in question that is owned by the 11 large-scale tea producers in Kericho, Bomet, and Nandi counties, including the registry index map within a period not more than 30 days. And in any case, it has to be tabled unless otherwise justification for later submission is given. Thirdly, Mr. Speaker, the committee has also recommended that the large-scale tea producers who are domiciled in the county government of Kericho and Bomet with the local community continues in the current ongoing collaboration engagements in order to ensure that there is innovative means and ways which also will give them a structured engagement towards sustainable coexistence. And this, Mr. Speaker, is born out of an ongoing engagement that the committee was presented with in the course of its investigation. Further, Mr. Speaker, the committee has recommended that the National Land Commission to prepare and submit to this Honourable House within 60 days a status report on all investigations initiated pursuant to Article 67(2) of the Constitution of Kenya, which report should contain, among others, matters, the actions taken, the redress which has been recommended, and whether the recommendations have been implemented or challenged in court, and the reasons for the same. Further, Mr. Speaker, the committee has also recommended that the National Land Commission to create and maintain an accurate database and register of all land leases out of the large-scale tea growers within the two counties, that is the county of Bomet and Kericho, in order to ensure that there is appropriate dissemination of that report in accordance with Section 8 of the Land Act. The report and a copy of the register to be submitted to the Senate within 6 months of tabling of this particular report. Mr. Speaker, sir, on its part, this committee, in the course of its investigation, indeed established that there are certain legislative interventions that it must do, and it has undertaken to initiate an amendment to Section 15 of the National Land Commission Act, Act number 5 of 2012, in order to ensure the deletion of Section 15(3)(e) and Section 15(11), which limits the mandate of the National Land Commission of investigating present and past historical injustices. This is contrary to the provisions of Article 67 of the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, the provisions of Section 15(3)(e) and 3 and 15(11), in this case, inhibits the mandate of the National Land Commission to investigate historical land injustices beyond 10 years, which is contrary to the provisions of Article 67 that mandates the National Land Commission to undertake such investigations without limiting the time. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, the committee has also undertaken to follow the proceedings in the Supreme Court advisory opinion, that is reference number 2 of 2020, and once the matter is concluded, initiate appropriate reforms to implement the findings and the recommendations on the matter. This, Honorable Speaker, is because of the desire to ensure that lasting resolutions are arrived at both within the Senate and also in the matter that is pending before the Supreme Court. Honorable Speaker, allow me to thank the members of the committee for their diligence and insights during the consideration of this petition. I also wish to thank the petitioners and the senator for the county of Kericho, the majority leader, and also for those who participated in bringing this matter to the attention of the House, leading to allocation of the matter to the committee. I further wish to thank the stakeholders who presented submissions before the committee, including the large-scale tea producers, the National Land Commission, the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, and the Office of the Attorney General. Mr. Speaker, lastly, I wish to thank the Office of the Speaker, that is the Office and the Office of the Clerk, for the support accorded to the committee during the consideration of this report. And lastly, I would like to thank the Secretariat and the members of the committee for their commitment to the cause. Mr. Speaker, it is now my pleasure, duty pursuant to Standing Order 238-2, to present the report of the Standing Committee on Justice, Legal Affairs and Human Rights on the petition by the Kipsigis Community Clans Organization regarding historical land injustices against the Kipsigis community. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Next order.
Order number 5, papers.
The majority leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of this Senate today, the 10th of August, the year of our Lord 2023. Mr. Speaker, these are 1, the Water Services Regulations Legal Notice number 168 of 2021, and Mr. Speaker, the report of the Auditor General on the financial statements of Kisumu County Emergency Fund for the year ended 30th of June 2023. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do lay.
Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, questions and statements.
Now, honorable senators, I'd wish to rearrange the sequence of today's order paper because if you notice, if you look at order number 8, that is a motion that we need to dispense with today, and today being the last day of our sitting, indeed, therefore, it is a priority. And therefore, we shall move to prosecute order number 8. Once we are done, we will come back to order number 7. Clerk, proceed to call that order.
Order number 8, motion, adoption of the report of the Committee of Powers and Privileges on the inquiry on its own motion into conduct of Senator Gloria Oroba, MP, and to establish if the conduct constituted breach of parliamentary privilege.
Now, honorable senators, if you notice from the report, as a speaker, I'm the chair of the Powers and Privileges Committee. I presided over that particular inquiry, and therefore I cannot preside over the debate on that report. And I will allow Senator Sigei to relieve me so that you may proceed with the debate on that particular report. Yes, Senator Boni.
Similarly, Mr. Speaker, you have to guide the House. You cannot move the motion because you're the chair. So you indicate who is going to move.
Senator Boni, that has been taken care of. A member of the committee is going to move the motion. Thank you.
Honorable members, order. I would like to call upon Senator Shakila Abdallah to move the motion. What's your point of order, Senator Sifuna?
Mr. Speaker, it would have been nice if members were supplied with the copies of that report so that when the mover is going through accessible copies, I can confirm with my neighbor, Senator Crystal Asige, that she does not have an accessible copy of the report. Thank
Senator
you.
Senator Sifuna, I am informed that all the iPads are actually with the report. However, I also direct that the clerk's desk can avail for those who are not digitally able to access from the iPad the report. Senator Wambua, what's your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, mine is just a matter of procedure. Mr. Speaker, you know, it is these small things that really eat from the dignity of this House. I've seen Senator Cherargei casually just cross over. I even warned him, and he proceeded to cross to the other side. Mr. Speaker, you know, we must give dignity to this House, honestly.
Senator Cherargei, remember yesterday a similar incident happened, and the chair will not hesitate to apply the rules as are required. You're out of order, kindly comply, do what is procedurally required of you as a ranking member of this House. You cannot ignore the fact that there are rules that are to be followed. Proceed. Senator Cherargei. Senator Shakila, take the floor and move your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to move that the Senate adopts the report of the Committee, Powers and Privilege, on an inquiry on its own motion into conduct of Senator Gloria Oroba, MP, and to establish if the conduct constituted breach of parliamentary privilege laid on the table of the Senate on Wednesday, 9th August 2023. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Committee of Powers and Privilege is established under Section 15(1) of the Parliamentary Powers and Privilege Act number 29 of 2017. Section 15(4) of the Act provides for the function of the committee as follows. The functions of the Committee of Power and Privilege shall be to inquire under the conduct of a member whose conduct is alleged to constitute breach of privilege in terms of Section 16. B, perform such other functions as may be specified in this Act. Number 3, Mr. Speaker, Section 15(5) of the Act empowers the Committee of Powers and Privilege to inquire either by its own motion or as a result of a complaint made by any person into the conduct of a member whom conduct is alleged to constitute a breach of privilege in terms of Section 16. Mr. Speaker, the members are as follows. Chairperson, Speaker Kingi, Senator Alexander, point of order.
What is your point of order, Senator Fatuma Adulo?
Chair, Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm requesting if the students who are here can be recognized so that we can discuss this matter comfortably. Thank you. Recognize and release them, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the members are on the list, and I will go through the charges, Mr. Speaker, briefly. Yeah. Charge number 1, Mr. Speaker, is the conduct constituted breach of privilege under Section 16E and Paragraph 7A of the 4th Schedule in the Parliamentary Power and Privilege Act 2017. Count 1, allegation of suits of sexual favor. Mr. Speaker, that the senator of diverse dates made unsubstantiated allegations that there were instances of pursuant of sexual favors in Parliament by posting various messages on the Senate business WhatsApp groups.
Senator.
Mr. Speaker.
Senator Shakila, the chair is on the mic. What is your point of order, Senator Wamatinga?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I think it's prudent that you rule on what Senator Duaro has asked. And looking up there, Mr. Speaker, I see that there are some small school children.
You've made your point. We have made arrangements. We are going to recognize them in a moment. We're getting the communication. And
Mr. Speaker, some of the content of these documents, I think they are sensitive, and we should watch on who is in the house when you're talking about them. Thank you.
Very well, very well. That's noted. The communication is coming. We shall, in a moment, deal. Senator Tumo, you are not yet. What is your point of order?
Thank you, Chair. I think apart from releasing the students now here, you should direct Mr. Speaker that until this motion is finalized, no more students should be allowed to the public gallery. I think you should give that direction.
Noted. Senator Karungo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a public house. The debate is live. Even those kids at home are watching. I don't see any problem whatsoever for us discussing this issue. They are here to learn so that they can see what we go through or what we say in this house. So, Mr. Speaker, unless now you have to order, we shut even online, so that it becomes a kamukunji or becomes a, So this is not a personal issue. It is a matter of public concern. It is a report of a committee. So I don't see the reason why we should bar anybody from accessing this debate.
Senator
Mr.
Karungu,
Speaker.
the chair had ruled, and indeed the people who are in the gallery have already been discharged, and we are going to proceed with the motion. Senator Shagila, proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, count 2, allegations of favorism and discrimination, that the Senate in diverse states made unsubstantiated allegations that there was discrimination in Parliament by posting various messages at the Senate business WhatsApp groups and made allegations during a media briefing held in the Media Center, main Parliament building. Mr. Speaker, count 3, allegations of corruption, that the Senate in diverse dates made unsubstantiated allegations that there were cases of corruption in Parliament by posting various messages on the Senate business WhatsApp group. Count 4, allegations of back kicks and legislative agenda, that the Senate on diverse dates made unsubstantiated allegations that there were requests for kickbacks for legislative agenda in Parliament by posting various messages on the Senate business WhatsApp groups. Charge 2, conduct constituting breach of privilege under paragraph 8 of the 4th schedule to the Parliamentary Powers and Privilege Act 2017 on the Code of Conduct for Members of Parliament. Count 1, allegations disrespecting fellow senators, that the senator on diverse dates published information that was disrespectful towards the fellow senators in the Senate business WhatsApp group. Count 2, allegations of inputting improper motive on fellow senators, that the senator on diverse dates imputed improper motive on other senators by posting various messages on the Senate business WhatsApp groups. All these reports are in the reports. All these postings are in the reports. The committee, noting the gravity of the charges and conduct of the Senator Gloria Oroba, MP findings of the committee, and having reviewed the sanctions provided for the Section 17(3) of the Parliamentary Powers and Privilege Act 2017, as well as the practice in other jurisdictions, finds the Senator Oroba MP conduct was in breach of parliamentary privilege and recommend that, number 1, pursuant to Section 17(3)(g) of Parliamentary Powers and Privilege Act 2017, the Senator be suspended from the House of the remainder of the second session for the 13th Parliament. Number 2, pursuant to Section 17(3)(d) of the Parliamentary Powers and Privilege Act 2017, restrictions of access to the precincts of Parliament of defined in Section 3 of the Parliamentary Powers and Privilege Act 2017, and Standing Order 2 of the Senate Standing Orders, and withholding the use of enjoyment of any unspecified facilities provided to members by Parliament to be applied to the Senator for the remaining of the second session of the 13th Parliament. And number 3, to resumption of Senate sitting of the third session, the Senator, while on the bar, apologizes to the Senate, Honorable Senators, the Clerk of the Senate, and the Secretariat of Parliament before being admitted to the Senate, pursuant to Section 17(3)(c) of the Parliamentary Powers and Privilege Act 2017, in the manner stated in the report. Mr. Speaker, sir, on behalf of the committee, I take this opportunity to thank the members of the committee for their immense contribution to the inquiry that culminated to the report. The committee wishes to also thank the Secretariat of the Senate for the necessary support. On behalf of the Committee for Powers and Privilege, I have the honor and pleasure to present the report of the Committee of Powers and Privilege of its inquiry on its own motion into conduct of Senator Gloria Oroba, MP, and to establish if the conduct constituted breach of Parliament privilege in the Senate. I thank you, and I request Mr. Wamatinga Wahome, MP, to second. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Wamatinga, proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise to second this motion. Mr. Speaker, sir, I sat in the committee that discussed the conduct of Senator Gloria Uroba. What I must say, Mr. Speaker, sir, regardless, we must know that we are all colleagues in this place. We have a collective responsibility to take care of the reputation of this House. We have a collective responsibility to take care of the reputation of members, and we also have a collective and moral obligation to ensure that the standard of this House, as seen by the public out there, does not become affected in whichever way. Mr. Speaker, sir, it's my observation, my humble submission, that we all have other channels of dealing with whatever grievances we might have without resorting into hitting under the berry. And I therefore would want to urge my colleagues, for the remaining 4 years that we'll be in this House, let's embrace collegiality, let's embrace sobriety, and most importantly, Mr. Speaker, it is important that we portray an important and very, 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 very moral obligation of us all to portray this House as a respectable House. Mr. Speaker, sir, we must never forget that people out there do look at us as the pace setters, as role models, and therefore, Mr. Speaker, sir, when there are issues that we must discuss, be it in the social media or even in the floor of the House, let's never forget that out there, people are watching and looking at us and debating what we are doing, and therefore, we must ensure that we do not in any way undermine their responsibility, their privileges, or even the dignity that's associated with being honorable members. Mr. Speaker, sir, being a honorable member has quite a lot of responsibility. And most importantly, Mr. Speaker, sir, when we have in public gallery, people, students who come here so that they can learn, let them learn from the best. I do, Mr. Speaker, sir, believe that there are channels that we are able to weigh our grievances, that we can be able, yes, to differ on opinion, to differ on principles, but basically to hold each other and treat each other with a lot of decorum. Mr. Speaker, sir, I think it is important for this House to commit itself to upholding the traditions, the dignity, and most importantly, the image that it is seen by those people out there. Mr. Speaker, sir, my humble submission is the collective responsibility we have when we walk inside that door makes us and must bind us to ensure that sobriety and most importantly, dignity is upheld. Mr. Speaker, sir, I second.
Honorable Senators, I now propose the question that the Senate adopts the report of the Committee of Powers and Privileges on the inquiry on its own motion into the conduct of Senator Gloria Orwoba, MP, and to establish if the conduct constituted breach of parliamentary privilege laid on the table of the Senate on Wednesday, 9th August 2023. Honorable Senators, I now call upon Senator Cherargei Samson Kiprotich, Okongo Omogeni Eric.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to make my comments on the report that has been tabled by the Powers and Privileges Committee. Mr. Speaker, I have no doubt that this is unprecedented. In the history that Parliament has been in existence, I've never seen a situation, Mr. Speaker, where such harsh and excessive, almost unreasonable verdict is being meted out on a member. More so, Mr. Speaker, a lady member of Parliament, a young member of Parliament who should be nurtured grow, and make women of the Republic proud. Mr. Speaker, if there is a day that I feel ashamed as a senator, it's today, Mr. Speaker. There is one time, Mr. Speaker, that PLO Lumumba said, you should never respond to a mosquito with a hammer. That's what we have done today. I don't agree with certain conducts of Senator Gloria. I don't agree. And many times I've reached out to Gloria to have a word with her as an elder, Mr. Speaker. And that's how it should be. We all falter, we all make mistakes, but we must walk along with each other, Mr. Speaker. I've said before, Mr. Speaker, if I see an injustice to any senator, may it be on this side or on that side, I'll never walk along with it. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, even if we wanted to pass some judgment on Senator Oruoba, not what I'm seeing in the report, Mr. Speaker, a proposal to suspend her for the remainder of the second session of the 13th Parliament. That is excessive. In all fairness, it's excessive. It's unjust. It's unreasonable. That's not, I don't expect that from the UDA government. You should be nurturing these young senators that you have nominated to this House. We are not the ones who nominated Senator Oruoba. I'm sure you did a proper background check on her. But, Mr. Speaker, I want to go on record as opposed to this report, especially the judgment. You could have even recommended suspending her from 5 sittings. This is the first time she is facing a disciplinary committee before the powers and privileges. And I want to tell you, honorable senators, today you are celebrating because it is Senator Gloria Oruoba. Tomorrow it will be you. Because you want to set a precedent where you do something small, you are expelled for the entire of the session. I want to remind you the words of a senior senator who served here, Senator Orengo. He once sat here and he told Beth Mugo that revolutions eat their own children. And now you can see who does began with Senator Gloria Oruoba. Tomorrow it will be somebody else. On our side, we are used. Our leadership here. So, Mr. Speaker, even if...
what's your point of order, Senator Aaron Cheriot?
Mr. Speaker, Senator Omogeni is a commissioner, a man I respect and hold in high regard. But is it in order for him to want to reduce a report of a committee of this House into the operations of a party? UDA does not feature anywhere. The member who moved the report, for your information, is a member of the minority side. Bwana Commissioner, please respect the office that you hold. Be responsible in your utterances. This is about lead by example. That's why I told you, if I was in your position, Senator Omogeni, these are the matters that you leave as elders, we speak last. You are the person that we defer to as our senior and as a leader, surely. You cannot reduce a committee report to want to play it along party position. You've just seen me trying to consult with Senator, my leader of minority, because I'm trying to see, this is really embarrassing to us as a House, and we are trying to put our heads together to see what can we do to cover ourselves. Please, I request you, my good neighbor and my friend, you can make better decisions than the one you are making this afternoon. Don't reduce this into a party issue. Please, my brother, I beg of you, because you are a commissioner and a man that I respect so much.
Senator Sifuna, what is your point of intervention?
Mr. Speaker, I was a bit concerned by one of the submissions by the leader of majority, that in fact the report of a committee was moved by a member of the minority delegation. Mr. Speaker, that has nothing to do with the political, sides of the House. I have just a minute, Majority Leader, please. I heard you in silence. I am saying that it was a request of the committee not a request of the minority side for Senator Shakila to move that motion. She was just doing her job as a member of the committee. That particular point, Majority Leader, I don't think has been made in good faith. And Mr. Speaker, I wish that it is clear that Senator Shakila only moved the report upon request of her committee itself. It's not a directive that came from the leadership of the minority side.
Senator Okongo Mogeni, you take note that this is a serious matter that concerns actually the privilege of this Honorable House. And therefore, you're out of order to make reference to the fact that this is either minority or majority, or even to make reference to specific utterances regarding the particulars of either party in terms of nomination or otherwise. So kindly refrain as senior ranking member and use parliamentary and appropriate language.
Mr. Speaker, I have a lot of respect for the chair, and I can't question your directive. But I wonder, under what standing order was the leader of majority intervening? Yeah. So, Mr. Speaker, the point is, and I want to make it very clear, on issues that touch on an injustice, I will not be swayed to go by majority. I'm willing to go on record that I've stood alone on this matter, Mr. Speaker. Because as I've said, Mr. Speaker, we must be a house, even when we go to our courts of law, Mr. Speaker. The judgment that you pass on a crime Mr. Speaker, must be reasonable, not excessive, Mr. Speaker. And I'm saying, Mr. Speaker, that we are setting a precedent that will come back to bite us. Listen to me, senators. It will come back to bite us. And I will not, Mr. Speaker, I want to be on record, Mr. Speaker, I will not dance on the grave of the deceased. I will not, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, the point I'm trying to make, Mr. Speaker, is that I do not agree for a moment with some of the conduct of Senator Gloria Oruoba. But what punishment should we, as a House, meet or not? That's the question that I'm raising this afternoon, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I've watched the way we have carried proceedings of this House, Mr. Speaker, and I've stated on many occasions, Mr. Speaker, that in a Commonwealth Parliament, debates of this House should be lively, Mr. Speaker. Every Wednesdays, I watch proceedings of the House of Commons, Mr. Speaker. I see the Prime Minister of UK. He comes to the House, he sits there, he's asked questions, people shout shame. But in this House, we have set a precedent where you are supposed to sit as if you are in a funeral, Mr. Speaker. We are going the wrong way, Mr. Speaker. When we fought to have a parliament that is independent, Mr. Speaker, we wanted to get a climate that helps us to conduct our business, Mr. Speaker. And I want to say, Mr. Speaker, as practicing Christians, we owe it a duty to ourselves to nurture this young senator called Gloria, Mr. Speaker. And the standing orders are very clear, Mr. Speaker. You can start with a warning, you can start with a suspension of 3 days, then you elevate it. If you reach a time when you are saying now you are suspending her for the remainder of the term, we'll all agree. But on the first occasion that she's being taken before the Powers and Privileges Committee, and then you bring a report to us that she should be suspended for the remainder of her term, Mr. Speaker, that is punishment that is harsh, to say the least. So I want to plead with you, senators. There are many things that Senator Gloria does that I don't agree with, including when we raised issues of members of minority who are arrested.
Senator Okongo, there is, yes, Senator Wambua, what's your point of information? And would you like to be informed in the first place by Wambua?
Mr. Speaker, Wambua is a church elder. I will not decline to be informed by him.
Proceed, Senator Wambua.
Mr. Speaker, so that Senator Omogen walks the narrow path and the right path, he has 3 times made reference to suspension for the remainder of the term. The Speaker, I think the decision of the committee, if I not get it right, was that suspension for the remainder of the session, which expires maybe in December. Yeah, so so that we don't mislead the House and we don't mislead the public, that the senator remains really on the straight and the narrow. It is for the session, not for the term. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Kongo, I'm sure you are informed as you proceed with your...
I told you it's always good to be informed by a church elder. And I stand corrected. I've seen it's true that it's for the remainder of the second session, which takes us to the end of this session, which is December, which I agree. The second point, Mr. Speaker, I've read in the report, though I don't have the details, I've read on the report, Mr. Speaker, that this matter is subject of court proceedings. I've not seen details of the case number because this report has been circulated while we are in session, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, if indeed it's true that Senator Uroba raised the issue of a matter that was pending before court, Mr. Speaker, in the interest of justice, Mr. Speaker, in the interest of justice, Mr. Speaker, the committee should have given room to the court to adjudicate and make a verdict on the matters that were raised by Senator Uroba in court. And I want to bring it to your attention, Mr. Speaker, that the current leader of minority in the National Assembly, the current leader of minority in the National Assembly was himself subjected to such a punishment by the National Assembly. But when the matter went to court, Mr. Speaker, the High Court of the Republic of Kenya, the matter was heard by Justice Odunga, Mr. Speaker, and Justice Odunga made an observation, Mr. Speaker, that any time the powers and privileges wants to punish a member of parliament, the punishment should not be excessive, the punishment should not be unreasonable. So, Mr. Speaker, I plead with the House, it is right to pass punishment against Senator Uroba, but I plead with the House to pass to support a punishment that is fair, that is reasonable, that gives Senator Gloria an opportunity to reform and to correct our wayward, misconduct. So, Mr. Speaker, I finally agree that it's in order for her to apologize to the House, and I plead with you, Senator Gloria, that you are a young senator. You have a long way to go. We love you as our colleague. We also plead with you. Please, to know how to conduct yourself as a member of this House, where you are elders. I'm speaking to you as your uncle. Please, also learn from what has happened today. In future, conduct yourself in a manner that does not demean the stature of a senator who has got the privilege of sitting in this House. And remember, your partyhood has been very fair to you, to give you a nomination at your age. So please, Senator Gloria Uroba, go back, do self-reflection, and watch how you use social media. You can see even Trump, the former president of the United States of America, is in trouble because of the tweets he made while he was president. So please, Senator Gloria, take a moment of reflection. And know how to conduct yourself while serving as a senator. So, Mr. Speaker, I oppose the motion.
Senator Cheriot Aaron, what's your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise under Standing Order number 110 and wish to read as follows. 110.1, that a senator who wishes to postpone to some future occasion the further discussion of a question which has been proposed from the chair may, for reasons stated, claim to move that the debate be now adjourned. Madam Speaker, Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to humbly call on the collective wisdom of the House, because this is a very emotive issue. Number one, it involved a colleague. She might be right. In your opinion, she might be wrong. Number two, the person who chaired this committee is the Speaker of the House. The person who we are told is victim to these harassments is none other than the Clerk of the House. Whichever way you look at it, there can never be a winner and a loser in this conversation. We will look so dirty. We will look so silly as a house. It will be bad of us eventually. In fact, Mr. Speaker, I must concede that it was due to a lapse of concentration on my side. If I had known that there was going to be such a debate, perhaps earlier the prudent thing to do would have been to consult with the leader of minority, walk to the Speaker's house, and sought that this matter be handled perhaps differently. You know for a fact, Mr. Speaker, that last time, when the Assembly had such a situation where a report was brought and the House defeated it, they amended their standing orders. Today, if you go to the National Assembly, the Powers and Privilege Committee is not chaired by their Speaker, for the obvious reason that it is not just proper and decent for you to be Speaker and preside over a House, bring a committee, report chaired by you, then it be subject to discussion by senators who will critique your work. Some will say certain things that you may not like. So for the very many reasons, and I want to plead with everybody, just everybody who's, all my colleagues, that I called the minority leader behind. We have a room called the consultations room, and I pleaded with him. And I said with my brother, you are my senior and an elder, do you like this debate going on in the House? He said, I'm equally agonizing, and I'm trying to speak to members of my delegation to share with them that, what do we do? Therefore, I consulted with him and I said, can we at least seek leave of the House that you allow us to perhaps as a leadership retreat back and have a reconsideration of this matter? Then we'll find a way of resolving this without having to air our dirty linen in public. So I want to plead with you, colleague senators. You perhaps maybe hold a different view on this issue. There's something you may want to say, but I want to humbly plead with you that allow us, in the same way that we have consulted with the leader of minority, and perhaps he'll have a chance to explain and say himself what he thinks about this, that, Mr. Speaker, I want to move that debate be adjourned on this question until a later date. And I want to request, Mr. Speaker, that the leader of minority seconds me in that proposal. I beg to move, Mr. Speaker.
Minority Leader, Senator Amadzayo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I've been in this House long enough, and I think this is the first time that we have come across such a challenge. Mr. Speaker, it requires wisdom to keep dignity of this House. And we should not expose it by washing some kind of linen that might not be very good to the public. Whatever the leader of majority has stated, I fully second it, as it will go a long way to sort out quite a number of issues. I second, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, now pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 110, I would like to propose the motion on the request by the majority leaders to whether or not this debate on this motion can proceed or not. And I will allow members to contribute on the request by the leader of majority, seconded by the minority, to adjourn the motion or otherwise, and not on the merits of the particular motion that had earlier on begun to be debated on. And honorable members, I now propose the question that the debate be now adjourned. Karungu Thango, what's your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, not to be seen, not to agree with the leader of majority when you are rearranging the order paper. You said we are going to order number 8 and we jumped the statements and questions because you wanted this issue to be expedited with before we close for recess, Mr. Speaker. So I don't know whether we are going against your ruling. I seek your indulgence on the issue.
Senator Karungu, from what I've heard you saying, you are in opposition to the adjournment, and you can speak to that, whether you do not want the motion to be adjourned or not. So I will allow Senator Halwale.
Mr. Speaker, what the leader of the majority has now brought before this House is what is called a dilatory motion. Mr. Speaker, a dilatory motion attempts to stop proceedings on a motion that had otherwise been procedurally been brought before the House. Mr. Speaker, I want to invite you to look at 110(3). Mr. Speaker, with your permission, I read. If the Speaker is of the opinion that a dilatory motion is an abuse of the proceedings of the Senate, the Speaker may forthwith put the question thereon or decline to propose it. Mr. Speaker, 110(3) invites you to make a decision before you propose the motion to open debate. And Mr. Speaker, I therefore want you to exercise 110(3), and as you do so, consider two things. The first one, Mr. Speaker, is that it will be an abuse of the proceedings of the Senate if a motion which has been approved by the Speaker is then stood down. Mr. Speaker, it will also be an abuse of the proceedings of the Senate if a motion which has got clear timelines is then stood down so that the timelines are negated. Mr. Speaker, this motion is supposed to be concluded within 14 days. So if you make that determination and you allow us to go ahead, there are many who want to support and there are many who want to oppose, and I'm glad to tell members on this point of order that as the whip of the Kenya Kwanza, we have no Kenya Kwanza position. This is a private matter to this House that is supposed to do housekeeping. If you are happy that you can be called a rapist, then you'll oppose the motion. So this is a housekeeping motion. Let's keep out the issue of the opposition, the issue of the government side, the issue of parties, coalitions. We just allow members to follow their own minds, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Boni, indeed the chair had made a determination under 110(2) as regards the dilatory motion that was moved by the leader of majority. And therefore, the question was put for members to debate as to whether we adjourn or not. So your concern was already taken care of by the time the chair made that particular decision. I will allow members to debate on that dilatory motion as to whether or not we will adjourn or otherwise not adjourn. I have got my dashboard full. We need to limit time for purposes of progress. We will allow each member to take 2 minutes to speak on the motion moved by the majority leader. And I'll go by Senator Samson Cherargei.
Mr. Speaker, mine are quick. I don't have a problem when there is an adjournment for the House leadership to build a consensus on the matter that is before, considering that it's more of a private issue and it concerns a member. So I don't have a problem. My only concern, Mr. Speaker, and which you will provide guidance, is that we had stood down some other urgent business of the order paper. Maybe you can allow the House leadership to congregate and consult, then allow the order paper to proceed as they consult. Then I think that would be very important, Mr. Speaker, so that we don't, today is Thursday, we are going next week for devolution conference. If the House leadership can consult and give a consultation with other members, then it will be in order. Mr. Speaker, I think we have done before. Even in many cases where we have requested for suspension or adjournment to some point so that we can consult, Mr. Speaker. But I think as a House, I agree that such matters in future, we must seek leave to go in camera, Mr. Speaker, because it concerns a member. I know Article 118 and open parliamentary proceedings, Mr. Speaker. In future, we must allow such issues, seek leave, go in camera, because it's about discussing a member. So with those many remarks, Mr. Speaker, I allow the wisdom of the House to prevail. Thank you.
Senator Beatrice Ogola Akeje.
Honorable Speaker, I I'd put my button earlier, but now that I've been given an opportunity, I'm wondering that the majority leader would come in at this point of time, the minority leader comes at this point of time. This has been going on all along for the last few weeks. As you watched, we expressed a desire that you come and sort out this issue as leaders, and we all watched. Then we come in at this point and say, let us give it time, you want to find an alternative.
I will limit the members whom I'll allow to speak so that we progress, and I'll give 2 more on the majority side and 2 more on the minority side. And you'll take 2 minutes each. Senator Keroche Tabitha Karanja.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I also rise maybe to support what the majority and minority have proposed. But mine is just to ask, as the leaders, why did we allow it to come this far? Why did we allow it to come this far? So that will be the question. I know the minority has said that he's been here for long. You've been here for long. You needed to advise the young coming senator that it is supposed to be done like this or this. Now, not even that. It is to ask, why wouldn't we? Because I had called her personally and asked her, what is all this? She told me she's gone all the offices and nobody has helped her. So that's why she drew it to the social media. I'm not supporting her, but maybe she couldn't find anywhere else to go. So as the leaders, I think we failed in this. We should have taken it before it reached to this point. So going forward, we ensure that will never happen again. Thank you. Thank you.
Honorable members, the direction the chair gave was that our debate is on whether to adjourn the motion or not, and not a debate on the motion. So as we speak, very well. Before I put the question, Senator Muma. Give Senator Muma the mic. proceed to the dispatch box, Senator Muma.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mine is to seek some direction on what happens. Leader of majority and leader of minority are asking for adjournment, but we are not clear for what. They have actually not given direction in that regard. I think as members of this House, we need to be a House that will stand for justice for all people involved. I wish to state that the clerk who has been accused of very serious issues is not present in this House. We are being watched by the public, which would include children of the clerk, the wife of the clerk, and allegations made are serious allegations that we need. I would want us to resolve this issue the best way possible, even if it is internal. But we want direction. Mr. Speaker, I think minority and majority leader may be abusing their space if they don't give us clear direction on how we resolve this issue. Those of you who are on WhatsApp are aware this is a matter that has gone on for long. We actually need to put this to rest.
Lastly, I'll give this to the Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, without going to the merit of the report or the motion that is before this House, I really want to thank both the majority and the minority leaders for that important move that they have taken this afternoon. You know, Mr. Speaker, when things come to the family, you know this House is a family. It is always important, really, to caution ourselves. When a member of the family is under siege, it is always important for the whole family to come together and think in another alternative way, other than debating this report. If we could go ahead and debate this motion and punch holes, and the chair of this committee is our speaker, I think, Mr. Speaker, that could have been gone to the wrong way. So I want to say that I really support, but I'll advise my sister. I called out to my office, Senator Gloria. I want my dear sister to listen to me. As Njorin Cheke Heonda, I called my sister to my office before this committee sat. And I told her there are things that really need not to progress the way they were progressing. So Senator, I will really request...
Senator Kathuri, the debate was in the confines of...
Yeah, fine, I understand. I understand standing on, but there is a question I want to give, an advice to my sister. I'm not retrogressing,
within the time,
but I'm requesting her from today.
Thank you. Honorable members, order, please. Order. Senator Kaduri. Senator Kathuri, please take your seat. Please take your seat. Senator Cherargei, take your seat. Honorable members, I'm not going to entertain any additional interventions. I'll just proceed to put the question that the debate be now adjourned. May those of that opinion say aye. Aye. May those of a contrary opinion say nay. Nay. The ayes have it. Honorable members, you recall the order paper had earlier on been rearranged would like to go back to order number 7, that is questions and statements. Clerk. Senator, what is your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, I stand to ask whether one of us, Senator Morango, is dressed properly according to the latest guidelines given by the Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Order members, please take your seats, or if you're consulting, consult in silence. Minority Leader, Senator Madzayo. Senator Madzayo. Order, please. Senator Wamatinga, order, please. Order, members. Senator Mofaya, kindly consult in silence. Senator Mofaya, thank you. Clerk, read the next order.
Order number 7, questions and statements. This is deferred. On the request of the senators. There are a number of senators who have got their statements, but they are not in other papers. Yes.
So, Majority Leader, you have a statement. As we proceed to reorganize the order paper, proceed to issue a statement.
Sifuna. Wewe. Mr. Speaker, sir, pursuant to Standing Order number 57-1, I hereby present to the business of the Senate of the week commencing Tuesday, the 5th of September 2023. As you are aware, Mr. Speaker, in accordance with the Senate calendar approved on the 16th of February 2023, the Senate will proceed on a 3-week recess at the rise of the House today. Regular sittings of the Senate will resume on Tuesday, 5th of September 2023. Mr. Speaker, sir, at the sitting of the Senate held on Tuesday, the 1st of August 2023, the Senate considered and passed 3 bills at the Committee of the Whole and a 3rd reading stages. These bills have since been referred to the National Assembly for consideration. This therefore brings the total number of Senate bills referred to the National Assembly to 6. Additionally, the Senate has also passed 2 bills at the 2nd reading stage. The bills have transitioned to the Committee of the Whole stage. On Tuesday, the 8th of August 2023, the Senate adopted the report of the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget on the county government's equitable share cash disbursement schedule for financial year 2023-2024, and thereon approved the county government's equitable share cash disbursement schedule for financial year 2023-2024, pursuant to Section 17(7) of the PFM Act and Standing Order number 189-3. I take this opportunity to laud the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget for its diligence in considering critical financial instruments that unlock funds to our county governments. I urge the select committees to emulate this practice by considering business referred to them and tabling the reports therein on time, in a timely and proper manner, pursuant to our standing orders. Mr. Speaker, sir, there is still some work to be done as regards the business of the Senate. As indicated in the order papers today, at Standing Order number 9, 10, 11, and 12, there are bills scheduled for division. 3 at the 2nd reading stage and 1 at the Committee of the Whole stage. On this note, I request party whips to mobilize the requisite numbers of delegations for the divisions to be undertaken. This will clear the backlog of the bills scheduled for division from the order paper. With respect to motions, 24 motions are pending conclusions before the Senate and will be accordingly scheduled by the Senate Business Committee in program of the Senate business for each week. I urge respective movers of this motion to be available in the Senate when the motions are listed. In terms of petitions, 15 petitions are due for reporting pursuant to Standing Order number 238-2. Of these petitions, 1 is pending before Standing Committee on Agriculture, 2 before the Committee of Devolution, 1 before the Committee on Education, 1 before the Committee on Finance and Budget, 2 before the Standing Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs and Human Rights, 2 before the Standing Committee on Labor and Social Welfare, 2 are pending before the Lands, Environment and National Resources Committee, 4 petitions are pending before the Standing Committee on Roads, Transportation and Housing. I urge the standing committees to expeditiously conclude on the petitions and table reports pursuant to standing orders. In the event that there are many challenges in the processing of the petitions, my office and indeed that of the Senate leadership is open for consultations to address them. Statements continue to be increasingly sought by senators. There is a high number of statements pending for consideration under Standing Order number 53-1 by various standing committees, and I urge committees to expeditiously consider and finalize on the statements. Mr. Speaker, sir, finally, at the meeting of the SBC held on the 8th of August 2023, the committee approved a set of questions to be replied by the respective cabinet secretaries on 5th September 2023. The summary of these questions is as follows. Question number 18 by Senator James Lomonen, MP, to the Cabinet Secretary of the Foreign Affairs and Diaspora Affairs on the inaction of Kenyan government to hasten the release of Turkana pastoralists arrested in Uganda. B, question number 19 by Senator George Mbugua to the Cabinet Secretary for Health on accessible health facilities and services to persons with disability. C, question by George Mbugua to the CS for Labor and Protection on compliance with Persons with Disability Act with regards to reservation of employment to PWDs. Mr. Speaker, sir, I take this opportunity to wish all colleagues a safe and fulfilling break. I wish them well as they travel as well to the devolution week in Uasin Gishu, and wish that we can engage and have a fruitful consideration on the same. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I wish to thank the House for listening. Though grudgingly, I know that those who don't agree with us on the decision that we have taken, but I believe it is in the best interest of the House, and I want to plead that because I listened to the comments by Senator Catherine Moma, Mr. Speaker, a lady I hold in such high regard, say that she will judge us extremely harshly as leadership if we let this matter pass, because I know it is not just about one of our colleagues, but it's also about one of our very senior staff, a man that I equally respect and have worked with very closely for 5 good years, a man of impeccable character, great Kenyan, a patriot, and therefore allow us to go behind the tent, as they say, and find ways. I believe that with the wisdom of retired Judge Stewart Mazayo, myself, ladies of great distinction like yourself, we will find an amicable solution to this. And we felt it will be a better route to consider it that way as opposed to the route that had been prescribed. Apologies that it had to come to this for us to realize how difficult a place we found ourselves in as a Senate. I thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do lay the statement on the table of the Senate. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Aaron Turiat, Majority Leader. Senator Eric Okongo Omogeni, a statement under Standing Order 50.
That thing happened, the road carnage thing is quite a disaster in this country. It has actually claimed a leader in his 30s And Honorable Speaker, you'll notice that if Honorable Olija Osiemo was given an opportunity to serve as a majority leader of a county assembly at that very tender age, that in itself described the kind of a person he was. Quite industrious, who went out of his way. He has no history, of ancestral leadership. He actually stood out from his village and campaigned against all odds without resources and became an MCA. And then eventually he campaigned within the assembly unanimously, again without resources and without serious backing, and it was given from the majority side. He was able to be voted in by his colleagues as the majority leader. In fact, Honorable Speaker, it will interest you to know that even when he was traveling, he actually got boarded in a vehicle of a colleague, a nominated MCA. He did not even use his official vehicle. He wasn't using his official vehicle to Nairobi. I mean, moving around with his colleague, because there were 3 in the vehicle, of course, plus the driver, now 4, they traveled in one vehicle together. And it was quite unfortunate that when they arrived close to Maimaio, Honorable Speaker, they hit a motorcycle that was ahead of them. And that, of course, got into the road without looking at the road signs and such. And this, of course, confused the driver because the motorcycle was carrying charcoal. And, of course, the charcoal blew out, of course, the dust, made the scene dark. The driver veered off the road and, got to the ditch. Quite unfortunate that we lost him. And the stories we hear, Honorable Speaker, is that, of course, unfortunately, he did not belt up when he got into the vehicle. And it's through that scene that from where he was seated, just beneath the driver, it was pushed towards the front side where the driver was by that very speed of the impact of the fall. And it's quite unfortunate when you look at the kids, very young kids, 3 kids, all below 10 years of age, have been left fatherless. And the people of Nyamaiya Ward, of course, they had actually started with the programs of coming up with development within the Nyamaiya Ward. They've just lost a serious leader, very focused. Honorable Speaker, so I wish the family, I pass my heartfelt condolences to the family, and also wish Honorable Duke, the Deputy Majority Leader, quick